I'm pretty sure you experienced a few very toxic conversations in your life. In this video, I want to show you how this kind of stuff very often happens and give you the tools to either have a very nice and pleasant conversation with people or to have a very toxic conversation. Welcome to my video. This idea was created after I was having a very nice talk with some random people that I just met. And we talked for hours. And it was a really nice conversation. And then all of a sudden, it just went unpleasant, let's say. And that got me thinking, like, why that exactly happened. And I was working out like what happened in that discussion, and I'm now trying to present to you, like, because these are common things. This is not super specific to that situation. These are things that happen very often, and I want to see more pleasant conversations with people and in the world. So that's why I'm making this video, hoping that you take something from it. There are many things that can happen, and of course I can only present a few here. The first, and maybe one of the most important ones, is the belief that the speaker has the one and only truth, right? So it's like, I know it better than anyone else. And there can be many more levels to that kind of thinking where it makes it even worse. But this goes hand in hand with, just take the basic of the idea of what a conversation is, right? You want to exchange ideas. But if you're already having this very fixed stance that you definitely know it better than someone else, then like the other partner can already sense that. And depending on how open he or she is, this may go well or it may not. But the belief that I already know exactly and I'm going to tell you now, plus I won't change my opinion here because I already know how it is. Where's the discussion aspect? This, just speaking about it like this already sounds more like a monologue, right? And it's not a really nice thing in a conversation because you want to exchange your ideas, right? So this is a very basic thing that happens. And it goes in addition with wanting to be right. So presenting your viewpoint is one thing, but then insisting that you are right, that makes it even worse because, yeah, again, you want to exchange ideas. The idea is at least one of those people in that conversation is going to improve after the conversation, right? So if being right is more important than the truth or the exchange, that makes it a bit more difficult. And I'm pretty sure you remember at least one or two conversations with someone who just, it wasn't about the truth. It was just about that person wanted to defend his viewpoint, right? Which directly brings me to the next point, which is a lack of flexibility. So this is a complex thing, but it's really important. Like, when you are identified with something, you think that is how I am, that is who I am. And this can also go with opinions and, of course, with worldviews. So sticking and clinging to that identity that you have, to your truth that you have in that moment, clinging to that because that somehow defines you, that is a big trap. Because this again goes with the openness, right? Because you want at least to be open to change. Otherwise, you're very stiff. Imagine you're going into discussion with someone and you already know this person is not going to change his view whatsoever. Like, would you have fun starting that conversation like that? Like, if you want to, you want to exchange ideas and maybe talk about which truth is closer to reality, and you already know that person doesn't want to change his view, it's not so nice. But the important point here is this identity. and that you understand, I mean, we all have this kind of stuff. Like, for example, an identity could be, I'm a fan of soccer club XYZ, or I'm a truther, or I'm someone who protects the environment. And I believe in climate change, man-made climate change, because that, by the way, was the very topic of the discussion that we had, which then kind of erupted into something. Yeah, so if that is your identity, that at the same time makes you immovable, right? And I think you all know the quote that says, be water, my friend, right? Because you want to be flexible in your discussion. Because your life doesn't depend on it, right? I mean, you believed all kinds of stupid bullshit in your life before, and you changed your opinion, you changed your view. So just keep that attitude, like, throughout your life. This will definitely be more beneficial to you than at some point thinking, oh, now I got it. Now I got it. And I will stick to that forever. Because there are very surprising things when it comes to truth and reality that you have to be really open. Otherwise, it's just like, sounds like complete bullshit. Another very annoying thing that people sometimes do is they don't even speak from their own experience, right? So let's go with a climate change example, the man-made. The question was whether there is a man-made climate change, assuming the assumption that there is a climate change, but we all kind of said, okay, let's assume that for now. So tell me, like, are you really speaking from your personal experience here? I mean, you can believe A or you can believe B, it doesn't matter, but if you, in this topic, for example, if you were to speak from your experience, you will tell me, I've been living in this specific country for like 10, 20 years, and over those 20 years, it has become warmer every freaking year. Okay, at least then you're talking from your own experience, right? But let's just go with this topic because it's quite handy here. But normally, I guess that's not the case. People are talking about global warming, whatever, climate change. And what they do there is they rely on external information. And especially they rely on information coming from science or coming from experts or whatever. And it's a horrible thing. I mean, understandable, but still, it's a horrible classic mistake to outsource the, like, where's the source of your information coming from? Does it come from your own, very own experience or from someone else? Because that already degrades the quality of what you're saying by like 80%, right? It could be true, but it could also not be true. Let's just assume that, like, whatever topic you're talking about, 80% of the experts, 90% are just wrong, right? And then you're saying, oh yeah, science, because science knows, right? So this is not a good thing to do. Try and always speak from your own experience and don't outsource it to someone else. Because also there's this, just as a side note, this small belief system or medium-sized belief system that, you know, science has all the answers and they have the perfect methods and everything, which by itself can also be questioned. So, like, I mean, how is that even an argument saying science, right? Or scientists? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of scientists saying that, yeah, it's true, but also there's a lot of scientists who say the other thing, the exact opposite of what you're trying to say. And even if you think about, let's say 90% of scientists claim that, yeah, there is a climate change and it's man-made. What does it matter if they are wrong, right? I don't say they are. It's just like, just think about it. 90% of scientists say, yeah, there is such a thing, but imagine they're all wrong. Like, it doesn't matter how many people say that. It's especially important with, like, referring to science. It's about what is true. So even if, like, only one scientist versus the rest of them has a different opinion and he is right, I mean, that's for me what it's about. It's not about what most people say or what most people believe, because I want to know the truth, right? And yeah, you can ask yourself, like, are you really interested in the truth here? Are you willing to look at it? Are you really willing to look at truth and willing to, or at least open to change your point of view completely, right? Because this happens very quickly when you notice, oh shit, he or she is right, and then you become defensive. That's again with the identification part. There's also this thing, he or she, why doesn't he or she see it that way? Usually when someone says something like this, it means that they themselves are not able to get into the perspective of the other person. So there's sometimes this basic lack of the ability to just see the world from the other person's eyes or perspective, or just being open to it. It doesn't mean you have to adapt it or to agree with it, just the ability to do that. That by itself is quite like a nice skill to have. And yeah, you can ask yourself, like, are you able to do that? Are you just for a moment open and say, okay, if I was in his or her shoes, could I understand why he or she is seeing it that way? And you can already, with compassion, empathy, like really connect with that person, because in a sense that's what also a conversation is about, right? Before we continue, a small note. If you're interested in the topics of self-reflection, healing, and personal development, I also offer one-on-one healing coaching sessions. Because very often, there's this diffuse kind of problem or hidden stress or blockage, and you can't really grasp the nature of it. And there comes my healing coaching, where we together look at this issue, and I'm helping you by providing clarity and offering you tools to transform these issues. If that sounds interesting to you, my website is linked in the description, and I would be very much looking forward to working with you. Something that's also really annoying, and it happened during this conversation about man-made climate change, is to open up these defamation words, boxes, whatever, where the argument was something like, yeah, I know this line of argumentation. This is how the right-wing people talk about it, or this is how Trump supporters talk about it. And it's basically, this has nothing to do with the argument, right? It's just, you're just trying to, you can say, oh, people who talk like this are racists. Like, what kind of argument is this? It has nothing to do with the thing. It's just there to talk bad about someone in order then to kind of weaken their argument, which doesn't really make sense if you're paying attention, right? So that by itself is one thing. And then this goes hand in hand with, I think it's called whataboutism nowadays. So let's say you talk about this one argument here, and then some person says, but that's how it is. And you could think, okay, he's right, and accept that argument. But many people, they do something like this. But what about this? And then you're saying, oh yeah, okay, it's like that. And you try to counter that argument or whatever with your own things. But then what they do is they always keep asking another thing, which seems to have to do with it, but it's really not fully connected. Plus, you don't really understand whether that person accepted your argument or not. It's just like they're dodging, let's say, the responsibility to at least agree or disagree with what you said. And there's a certain group of people, green, if you've seen my video on spiral dynamics, there's a certain group of people who like to do that because every truth is the same weight and harmony over everything, right? So yeah, but I think it's it's a strength that you have to be able to say, oh yeah, you're right, I was wrong. And it's just like, once you understand that, oh yeah, I can just say I was wrong or he is right, and there's absolutely no problem with that. Like, once you really get that, it makes discussions so much easier. Like, you don't have to defend anything anymore. You don't have to waste energy on defending your point of view or your identity whatsoever, right? It's just very nice if if that energy is now all of a sudden freed by now. There's also this thing where people all of a sudden, sometimes they get really emotional, and usually that is angry. And like, once they're angry, they're not rational anymore because they're already in their emotions, and it's a very strong emotion, of course. So such a person, it's really hard to talk with them on a rational, logical level, right? And what you don't want to happen is two people yelling at each other, right? So in order to counter that, you can ask yourself, like, or if it's, especially if you get angry, right? So like, why did you become angry? Because my point of view is like X, Y, Z. I mean, how does it affect you what I think? how can it be that important to you what I am thinking? So let's just say I believe in the flying spaghetti monster as our creator, or I believe that Jesus is still alive, or I believe in a flat earth. So how can that make you angry? Because usually, from my experience, like if someone gets angry, it means some kind of boundary is crossed. Like, crossed? You say crossed? Overstepped? I don't know. Or there's a wound that has been touched. So in this case, when we're talking about conversations like that and talking about, getting closer to truth, I think usually it's a sign that your truth, you understand, it's like crumbling, but you don't want to admit it, right? So, and then you become aggressive it's like a defense mechanism. And then these people, they start attacking because that diverts the attention away from their own wound or whatever identity that they have, or their own view that they would have to change, because there's a lot of people who have very big difficulties with this thing. So then instead of going inward and changing something in their system, they're attacking. And and then they become angry or whatever, or offensive, right? And of course, that's not a good thing to do in a nice conversation. Another thing is sending me messages instead of you messages. So just imagine, just feel how it feels when I talk like this. Oh, you're completely wrong there. I think you really should change your opinion. You're talking complete bullshit. Versus, oh, I have a different opinion there. No, I think you're wrong. I cannot see how that makes sense. Can you see the difference? Like, the first thing is you messages, and the second thing is I messages. So instead of, let's say, invading the field of the other person by saying you, speak about yourself. What is your truth? What is your reality? What is your view? You don't have to, of course you're giving impulses, but you don't really have to change the other person. You're just presenting how you are, and then it's up to them whether they want to adapt that. So there's a field related to this called nonviolent communication. And that's also a very interesting thing, and it's quick to learn. If you have some time now, 15-20 minutes, just go look it up. Maybe by the time now there's already a video from me from that topic, but yeah, it's really nice to know these things as a basic thing for communication as well. But I won't go into this video because it takes a few minutes to explain that. Yeah, so I hope you learned something from this video. And now you got a few more tools that you can use in your life to make a lot of conversations toxic if you want to. Oh yeah, or just, apply something here and there and then see how it goes and how your conversations can improve by this. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.